zigzag routes and stuff. So this is an accumulation of all the data loggers that we got over that period, that season. So this is 2010, I believe, yeah. You can see the highest density is the darker blue, but you can see that it's pretty well used area. And 2011, not quite as much use, but more participants. So we're still getting good data off that. And then the trail use counters, you can see the larger the dot, the more traffic you had. And again, this is divided by 2, so we don't double count coming and going. Seasonal recreation patterns. You can see February is a big month for use in both years. And that's the number of passes divided by 2. So we kind of got some good data on time of the year that we're having in use. These are the different portals that we could track to and who's using which portals the most. Upper elevation, you know that on the way to Brundage. Warren Wagon is, what's that name of that one anyway? Yeah, Francie Wallace, yeah. And then the Lick Creek, there's one out near Snowden where a lot of snow machiners park their rigs and go up Lick Creek. So, primary snowmobile trails broken down by the days of the week. You can see that Thursday, Friday, and Saturday especially were heavily used. Sunday and then during the week, not so much use. It's a little bit different with the backcountry skiers, more spread out. So this all gives us a picture of how much and how the recreators are using the area that we're interested in. Hourly patterns of recreation near trailheads, we could break that down by the time on the data loggers. And you can see from about 9 to lunchtime, people were coming out. A little bit less during that midday, and then they would go back out in the afternoon. It's pretty consistent year to year. We may have had 2010, I don't remember that. We may have had a better snowy year, so you had more use. And 11 wasn't as good. So, and then on to the wolverine monitoring. Oh, and this is you can see this trap is propped open. This is typical of the traps we build. They're used we use the local lodgepole to build these little cabins. And they have a trigger mechanism that goes down the back and is attached to the bait inside. And that will trip this lid to fall. When they're set, this log here is not in there. That's propping it open. And it's too heavy for them to push out. Took a little bit of experimenting to gauge the weight that would keep them in there. It's amazing to see the surface, the bottom surface of these logs and inside the lip here. And some of them didn't like being trapped, and they would work those logs. And that tells you what kind of weaponry they have. I mean, you see the claws that they have on this mount, and that's mostly what they use for that. They've got very powerful jaws too.
Is that wolverine in the picture bigger than this one here? It's deceiving.
Yeah, it's hard to say, but judging by the size of the trap and the distance it's from the trap, I'd say it's a little bit bigger than this one.
Okay.
And you can see we get them used to the reward. They go in there and snag the bait and run out and say, whoa, this is good. And another reason for the lodgepole logs is that when you trap them and they're sedentary, they've got food in there, they don't have water, so there's a time limit that you want them in that trap. But it is secure, safe from predators, and it's warm. because they're in there warming that space when the lid's down. So it's another, the insulating aspect of the lodgepole logs was one of the factors that determined how we built these. And Fish and Game picks up roadkill, and they have a freezer over at the McCall yard, and that's basically what we were using to bait these traps with, as well as camera traps. We'd hang a quarter of a deer leg up. We had problems on the traps, both the camera traps and the collaring traps, the lodgepole traps with red fox and pine marten. They would be able to pull on that bait enough to trip that trap, and we have a GPS sensor on there with a rod that pulls out, and it sends an email to us that says something's in your trap, and we have a certain amount of time, and we've had people going out in the middle of the night to process this animal. Sometimes you get out there and open the trap and there's a fox in there. Okay, set the trap, shoo him out, false alarm. But yeah, so the way that we process the animal, if we go out there and there is a wolverine in the trap, we usually find that out by raising the lid enough with a flashlight. Two people lift the lid enough, and it's amazing. Sometimes you'll give this whoa and drop the trap, drop the lid. They'll come at you. And other times, I was on one where this female, the older female I was talking about, you open the trap, you couldn't see her because she was down, and you just saw her head come up, and this quizzical look in her eye, like, what's this? And then they saw us, she saw us, and you saw the look in her eye change, like, oh, this is trouble. She backed down slowly. For the rest of the time, while she wasn't anesthetized, she was growling the whole time. So what you do is you determine what's in your trap. If it's a wolverine, you have a syringe on the end of a jab stick. You try and get her in the muscle. You don't want to get punched in the lung cavity so they're very good at that. One holds the trap open and with a flashlight, and the other one jabs. Give her a few minutes, and she'll go out. When you pull her out, we had sleeping bags. We had thermoses of hot water that we put in what do you call those bags? Hot water. Hot water bag. Yeah, the square ones that you put it in your bed. Put that in there. Lay her in there. Keep her covered up while we're processing her. Take hair samples, blood samples. Tag the ear, we have ear tags now, and then fit the collar. But the whole time, you would have to have somebody monitoring the heart rate and the breathing, and then we have an annual thermometer to make sure that while she's under the anesthesia that she doesn't chill down. So you monitor all these things for the safety of the animal. I don't believe we've lost any. But you got to have a coordinated team and do this as quick as possible. There's been some adjustments on the anesthesia because Diana is back with the Fish and Game. She likes to keep it right on the edge, which is appropriate for the safety of the animal. But they had one come out a little quicker than they thought, and she got bit on the arm, but no injury. It was groggy and bit her on the arm. So we'll put her back in the trap. So that's kind of the on-site. There's usually 3 people, and there's something always going on. Temperature, heart rate, breathing monitoring, sample taking, fitting the collar. You do that as quickly and as coordinated as you can for the safety of the animal. So, we've run, bait stations for many years, not associated with this this survey, and that was on the Sawtooth. I don't believe the PAD has done anything other than this survey effort here, but we knew that the Sawtooth had it. People seen them quite often down there. It seemed like there were almost more down there. Maybe they're shyer here on the Payette because of the winter rec activity. I don't know. So on the Sawtooth, they ran bait stations that are used to coming to potential trap sites. 4 wolverines, 5 different bait stations were identified, and I think that's either, it's probably by the fingerprint, the chest pattern. I don't believe that was anything like DNA or anything like that. These sites, and 4 more are now trap sites, so you get them used to coming, and then you build your trap, and they're usually pretty thankful for the free meal.
What up at, in Sawtooth, what were they doing the years where they had maintained bait station? Was that?
I don't really know much about, that was that forest. Huh?
Did they have camera?
I believe they were camera traps, yeah.
Okay.
I don't think they were taking any kind of DNA or trapping the animal or collaring. I think it was just camera stations. And those are pretty useful. I mean, if you do get the right shot, you can identify the animal to an individual. Basically, what I think they were doing is seeing how many they had out there
Yeah.
to justify setting up the trap, that trapping and collaring effort. California recently photographed an animal in Northern California, and they believe that they were extirpated in Northern California, so it just tells them they've got them, so.
So these surveying and trapping techniques, you try to keep them as a standard across
Yeah,
nationally?
yeah, well, that's, I believe this is a very large effort compared to the other ones like in Washington, Oregon, and Montana. And I think they talk to each other so they can standardize their data.
Because then the data can't be compared.
Right, because the object is get as much data on these animals since we don't have that much as possible. And I'm sure these organizations are talking to each other to kind of standardize that. So they have the motion sensor cameras. You might be able to get a fingerprint off this guy coming out of this trap. But you see they built the trap and they propped it open, put bait in there, and just trying to get an idea of how many animals and what animals, if you can identify them, are coming to these traps before they actually. It's very costly, so if you set up traps and you sit and wait, it's costing a lot of money. So you kind of want to justify your effort before you start trapping and collaring animals. You can see the camera is usually oriented to try and get a fingerprint. You can see if you position the camera right and you get lucky, and you get a book of these fingerprints and you go, oh, this is the one. So they're distinctive enough to tell individuals apart.
Like looking at a book of police mugshots.
Yeah. Yeah, now that's a good sized animal. That's probably another head distance larger than this female. It's probably a male.
What do they weigh, Ron?
What do
It's
they?
like my dog.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to compare it to. How big are they
I think-
compared to our dogs?
40 pounds, I think a male will go to.
Oh,
And
okay.
I might have a slide on that. And it varies depending on the genetics, the habitat quality, how much food they get and stuff like that. Yep, that's a healthy. And there's the bait, string a rope between 2 trees and hang the bait and set up our camera trap apparatus up, the camera opposite it. So that brings the smell, they can smell this really well. And we also have a mixture of scent and it's very nasty. Special gloves and some little jar you open it, take a little twig and you smear it on a tree. So these bait stations, we will send it to the area so that the wind carries it and they'll come in. But you smell it for days after camp. And my dog loves me when I come home from doing this. So, wow, what is that?
That's a great
Nice
night.
shot.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
So you can see this pattern is way different than that one.
Yeah. Luckily it doesn't know how to read.
Yeah, and for the backcountry skiers, we usually post the traps, letting them know that, you know, there's some danger involved messing with this stuff. Especially if there's a wolverine in the trap, hopefully that never occurred, but we post the area that this is a study, please don't disturb it, and things of that nature. This is what the trap looks like when they're built. This is one that is in the middle of the season. You can see we get quite a bit of snow. I think I got another one in here.
Oh, wow.
So you strap avalanche poles, you know, you do the transmitter, the pole, and the shovel, but you use the shovel to clear the entrance of the trap. So this is the lip of the trap. The trap is underneath the snow, but some places, some years, you'll have to work hard to keep that trap clear. So let's see, the capture sites and unsuccessful sites. So we had a few traps out there on our study area that never resulted in any animals, but you see the vast majority of them. We got pretty consistent results in trapping and collaring these animals. And that's fairly typical of the 3 areas that we did on our study area, that Boise, Sawtooth did. So the trapping monitor, 2010, we got 3 females and 3 males, and you saw the ranges based on their collars earlier. And it surprised the heck out of me. I thought maybe we'd get 2 or 1 because of the area. It's not a very big area. They cover vast areas with their ranges. 500 square miles is a lot of area for one animal. What that told me though is that we have very good habitat here for wolverines, and that they can, the better the habitat, the smaller the range, because they get what they need. If they don't get what they need, they range farther. We've seen, you know.
How often do you end up retrapping the same?
Quite often, because they get used to it.
So
And
when I
that's,
see those numbers, 6 females, 5 males, you might have had a total of like 20 or 30 traps in that year, but 11 were unique.
no, I think we had, what did we have? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12 traps. 12 traps and 3 males and 3 females. Those were trapped and identified. In other words, we didn't double count these because we had DNA and everything. We knew these individuals very intimately as far as, you know, what they look like and their DNA and stuff. 3 of the females entered reproductive dens that year, which means that they were mating with the 3 females, or the 3 males. And that was really good because having the animals is one thing, but having breeding pairs, that's the basis of recovery with environmental laws. We had wolves down here forever, but they brought in pairs and groups so that we'd have reproductive packs, and that constituted recovery. Single individuals necessarily don't. So this really was a good deal. They were raising kits and mating. 2011, we had 6 females and 5